thank you everybody so much for joining this morning. South Africa has load shedding. I know I've mentioned it before. So unfortunately, what it means is it's going to make our show this morning a little shorter than anticipated, but we're all here, and I am incredibly honored to have two of my really favorite doctors in the house. I know, Dr. Lodi, you've never met me, but I've been following you a lot this year, and your attitude towards health and healing and cancer for me is exactly the page that I was on when I went through the journey. And I think it's so pivotal to good health moving forward. Dr. Vignesh, I got introduced to you a few years ago, and that was my post-cancer journey. For me, the Panchakarma and the Ayurvedic detox program, gut health, is so essential in not only for cancer, but for general health. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining this conversation today. It's a great honor to have you both come and share your wisdom and your knowledge. And I want to, looking at health these days, and especially how we've come out of the past kind of crazy, dare I say, ridiculous 3 years. 2023, I want to put forward sort of how to move forward in health, and how we can look at our health, and how important it is to understand that health is holistic. That's what I love about both of your approaches and your teachings. And both these doctors teach freely, which is unbelievable. Dr. Lodi has a live streaming every Sunday. I think it's 7 o'clock Eastern time. And questions and answers are available. Dr. Vignesh has a Spotify podcast, Ayurveda and Beyond. So this is my introducing the two of you, and to my kitchen again. And to all of you, this is the last show for the year, only for 2022. We will be back in 2023, and I'm hoping these wonderful gentlemen will join us again. So, Dr. Vignesh, thank you for joining. Dr. Lodi, thank you for joining. And I wanted to ask Dr. Vignesh if you could start us off this morning, your time, afternoon, and share with us moving forward for the new year.
Thank you, Elaine, and thank you, Dr. Lodi, for joining. I've heard many of your works, and really honored to be sharing this platform with you. And thank you, Elaine, once again for bringing so many people together and creating a digital tribe together. I've been part of this conversations in kitchen since 2020. Okay, when people ask me what did 2020 bring to you, it brought me Zoom. It brought me another world in Zoom, and it brought me podcasts. It brought me how to reach out to people using technology. That was a good thing with Zoom. So now we are trying to find the hybrid model of online and the offline world. That's something new. So coming to the discussion, so I'm really looking forward for this discussion with Dr. Lodi as well. Today we talk about integrative medicine. I mean, on one hand, it's quite funny that we have to use the word integrative, but sometimes you feel medicine should be integrative by default, but we have to reiterate it is integrative or holistic to emphasize it's not just a isolated cure or a symptomatic relief, but it's much more than that. Everything is connected, like the butterflies can create tornadoes elsewhere. So that concept, we are just scratching the surface. So I'm looking forward to have this conversation. And Elaine, for your question, what is for the new year? Yeah. I think the last 2-3 years, it brought us a lot of understanding what it means to be healthy. And it's not just taking something from outside to inside. It's not just about the physical hygiene, but it's also about your internal hygiene that's going to matter. I think that's what the last 2-3 years taught the whole world, and having some chemical into you, maybe it will help you to some extent, but that's not it. There is much more to it. And I think that's what we all have to learn. And being healthy is going to be one of the greatest skill sets that you will have for the future.
For sure. Absolutely. And I mean, you know, health isn't, like you say, health isn't just sort of the Western modality of taking a pill. You know, our health is on all levels, our physical health, our mental health, our emotional, our spiritual health, you know, and to start understanding to include all of that.
Exactly. It's all interconnected. And
Yeah.
understanding that interconnectedness is where the real healing is happening. And in nature, it's already there, but we have to use our logic to get into that intelligence.
Yes.
So, Dr.
Absolutely.
Lodi, it will be nice to have your few wisdom as well, and then we can go into the discussion.
Yeah, no, that was a good point about nature. And nature is always my my ultimate reference. So whenever I hear if someone has something, they think they have something new, I use nature as my reference, and it never fails me because nature's perfect. It's the it's the as you know in Vedantic science, you know, nature is Maya. It's the dance. It's the dance of God. It's like it's a beautiful thing, and it's happening on all levels at all times. And it's just, you know, and what's the purpose? There is no purpose. That's the beauty of it. It's not going anywhere. The universe is not on its way to become a better universe. It's already perfect. We're not evolving. We're not, what are we gonna, it's gonna be better? No, this is it. I know that's really hard for us to take, but, and it's cyclic, and we all know that, right? And the beautiful, you know, and again, I always go back to Vedantic science, because I love it, because, you know, I kind of, my body, my spirit grew up there. I spent some time there in India, and but that, you know, but talking about you know, time as being cyclic and all these things, and you know, and we need to go through these. Like right now, what you just mentioned about the last 3 years, you know, as horrible as they were, they're going to get worse. 2023 is going to be the worst. The worst. We're going to have subcutaneous biometrics. That's what the G20 just decided in Bali. They didn't decide it. They got their script from those guys on top. They got their script. So that's the story. So it's going to get worse. Far worse on that level. So what you were talking about for me is exactly right. We have to integrate a system that was never disintegrated. You know, we talk about mind, body, and spirit as if they were separate. Where does one end and where does the next begin? Where does the mind end and where does the body begin? Maybe we could consider it the hypothalamus. You know, if we're going to be really physiological, we'll think, well, maybe the hypothalamus, because that's the interface. That's kind of where our emotions are transferred into our hormone system, right? Because so perhaps that's it. But then where does the spirit and the mind meet? The point I'm trying, and then what is the body, right? Well, if it ain't solid, it ain't real. Well, there's nothing solid about this desk. There's nothing any more solid about this desk than there is about the air, right? It's made of atoms, and atoms are 99.99% air, space, with very little what we call matter, but matter is just moving energy. So really, it's all energy is what we're talking about. So it's really hard to define mind, body, and spirit, where they are, how to reintegrate them, because they're never disintegrated. They're really, it's all one thing. So somebody always asked me, and this is I think an important, everyone might want to know this. How do I detox my liver? How do I detox my kidneys? How do I detox my heart? You can't detox any part of your body without detoxing the whole body, because the body is not really made of systems. Because really, there's no heart without the lung, right? The heart, the right side of the heart beats to the lung, pumps the blood to the lung pumps the blood back to the left side of the heart, which there's no heart without the kidneys. There's none of this without the liver. You know, we separate them, so we can't. But the truth is, so when you're detoxifying, and here's the beauty of detoxifying, everybody, because we all want to know, we're going to have New Year's resolutions, right? Okay, so detoxification is not something you do, it's something that happens when you stop doing. When you stop eating, when you stop engaging, your body cleans. Your body has X amount of energy. So if you're feeding it all the time, if you're feeding it 3 times a day and snacks, then it's busy assimilating and digesting and assimilating and incorporating and all that sort of thing. And it's not until you stop eating that your body gets to now, okay, clean away some of the debris that accumulated, for example, the hydroxyl free radical accumulates in our cells. That's why we produce 10 liters of molecular hydrogen in our colons a day. And that's why we have melatonin. One of the reasons we have melatonin. And that's to clean up this hydroxyl radical and stuff. So anyway, it's not until we stop eating, stop doing that we clean up, right? And so what I was going to say, I guess I'm dragging too far, but what I wanted to say about integrating is that we were never disintegrated, just like you said. We've always been this one beautiful, incredible thing that we don't quite understand. And any doctor or anybody who tells you they understand it, run, because they don't understand it. We can't understand it. It's divine. It's only a divine mind that could understand what's going on. But anyway, with regards to detox, and I think that's an important thing to remember. How do I detox my liver? Well, we detox when we stop toxing. So we stop eating, and our body will clean. That's what it does. The moment it stops, the moment it can take energy away from assimilating and growth, it cleans. Right? It starts to go through autophagy. It starts to go through all these things. It'll clean itself. That's what's the beauty of a fast. When you go on a fast, your body gets rid of all the stuff that shouldn't have been there, that was not necessary. Naturally, you didn't do it. I just did a detox. No, you didn't do a detox. You stopped toxifying yourself and you body detox. Anyway, so what do we do for 2023? The same thing we did for 2021. The same thing we did for the year 58 BC. Okay, because nothing, as Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun, and that is you go to bed early. You go to bed because that's what our physiology was designed. We arose out of 12-hour nights and 12-hour days. We are tropical beings. We're like the primates, sort of, but we're close to them. And so, that's when we went to bed about an hour after sunset, right? And if we do that, we wake up without an alarm around 3:30 or 4, which are the holy hours. You go to a monastery in South America of Catholic priests. You go to a Hindu monastery. You go to a Taoist monastery. You go any monastery, they're up at 4 a.m. Those are the holy hours. Those are the hours we should be, and that you get a lot more done in those hours than you do in the rest of the day. It's a very special time, but you had to have gone to bed early. Yeah. Otherwise, your body will not have renewed itself. So I would say if there was one thing that anyone could ever do to change their lives, you start going to bed early, and then everything else, because you know what to do, you know what to eat, you got to move around, you got to improve your relationships. We all know what we got to do. We just don't. And the reason we don't, I think, believe it or not, is because we don't go to bed early. I know that sounds like way too simplistic, but I challenge you. Try it for 2 weeks.
But it is, it's often the simplicity. It is often the simplicity that leads us to improved health. It's really reducing all the complexities, all the over busyness. The often the problem with us, as busy Westerners, most of us are, is that we're too busy. We wait till our body is in distress, and there's a dis-ease, and then we decide to slow down, go to bed, because you're forced to. You're standing at the edge of the cliff, and you have to go to sleep early. You have to stop eating the toxins, fasting, absolutely. And so sort of accumulating these a skill set that is sustainable despite our lifestyle. Because I think, for some people to just go extreme, but how does one integrate without it being, taking people where they are, to a better place, and then a better place, and then a better place. I mean, I know the extreme is like, that is the answer, absolutely. But I know I would never have gone there had I not been diagnosed with, had my visitor cancer. So Dr. Vignesh, adding to that, what is the skill set you give people? They come to your sitter run, they do the panchakarma and look at the gut health, but also, just like Dr. Lodi said, we go to bed early, there's cleaner eating, there's less technology that you're affected by. Now leaving your clinic, as people leave your clinic, Dr. Lodi, the skill set, sometimes they're only there for like 2 or 3 weeks. But what are those things that you sort of advise them when they're not prepared to go extreme?
Now, like Dr. Lodi made a very profound, even though it's a very basic thing, but today's knowledge that we have, we have to unlearn. Actually, that's the new way to develop your wisdom. It's not about learning, it's about unlearning. Like, you don't have to detox, you just need to stop your retoxing. So there are certain, in Ayurveda, the first message, there is this book called Ashtanga Hridayam, and the first chapter is called Dinacharya, the rituals you do every day to have a longevity with vitality. It's not just about longevity. Nobody cares about longevity. We want to live long only if we are going to be healthy. Sometimes people say, oh, do you really want to live that long? And the reason why people ask that question is they don't trust that they can live long with vitality. So why should I live that long? I would rather die young and early, because living long is going to be associated with a lot of disease and pain. So this is how the notion and the narrative has become. So in Ayurveda, the first advice given is being a morning person. Why being a morning person? Even though at that time we didn't understand the concept of circadian rhythm, and we didn't understand what it means to go to sleep, because when Ayurveda was written, Thomas Edison didn't invent the bulb, and we didn't have so much exposure to light after sunset. And then that just kept things quite easy. We had other problems. And then we had the post-antibiotic era that enhanced the longevity. But then we thought we can be like computers and we can stay awake late at night and everything can go wrong. Everything can go fine. And that is when we get these, I'm sure, Dr. Lodi, you must have gone through a lot of patients like this. They would say, I know when my friend, he got diagnosed with a terminal disease. It could be cancer, it could be some terminal disease. They live very healthy, they eat healthy, they don't drink, they don't smoke, but still they got diagnosed. Now, the problem is they think doing certain healthy things is enough to live healthy, but there could be 1 or 2 or 3 things that could be the most basic things, could be like one of them. You will see a lot of people who says, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I eat healthy, but they might go to sleep at 1 a.m. in the morning. They have this habit of going to sleep 1 a.m. and they think it has nothing to do with that. And the other side is, if you look at the principles of Ayurveda or anyone who practices this holistic concept, just because you have all the good habits, by canceling out your sleep hygiene, it can cancel out all the other good habits. So this is what I found out. And then what I did in my retreat, I made sure we don't have television after some time. There's no entertainment after 7 o'clock. It's just being boring. The biggest enemy of good sleep is entertainment or mental engagement. So I tell people, deal with your boredom at night. Go sit on your table, don't use your mobile phone, read something extremely boring so that you'll fall asleep. And today we train ourselves to be a night owl, and people say, I'm a night owl. That's not true. Nobody is a night owl. It's a training that we do to our endocrine system, and then we train ourselves, and that puts and now there are even studies, people who stay awake late at night have more cortisol, and having more cortisol and adrenaline can lead to more E. coli in your gut, and that leads to more cravings and more other issues. And we are just scratching the surface on this. And now some double-blind study will come and they have to tell us how this has to be done. And then we will start thinking. And by the time we think about it, we think there's no way to go back. I would rather continue with this. So Dr. Lodi, I have a question for you. I'm sure you have dealt with a lot of patients who come and tell you, I don't know why, because I've been living very healthy, I've been eating healthy, I've been doing all this right, but still, how on earth can I get diagnosed with this disease? So those people are already coming with a huge victim mindset. They're coming with, they did something wrong, they did something bad, God punished them, or I don't believe in God anymore, I don't believe in the science anymore. How me? Of course, there is a reason that, in Vedanta, we have a saying, there is no smoke without fire. But just because I don't know what the fire is doesn't mean that there is no fire. For sure, there is a fire. Without that, there is no smoke. But how do you handle that mindset and a particular frame of mind of a patient who's coming with that?
Well, that's a really good question. One thing you have to be careful with, and I know you know this as the doctor working with anybody, you have to be careful not to say anything that might put them in a position where they don't listen to you. I learned, my uncle who was my mentor told me something really important when I first had children. My children were very young. He told me, never put your children in a position where they have to lie. So never ask them a question where they're going to have to lie. Because we already know the question. We already know the answer, right? Like we say to our kids, why did you do that? We know why they did that. I mean, they just did it because it was fun. Whatever, but we're putting them in a position. Anyway, same thing with when you have a patient, when you have someone asking you a question. So the thing is, what I usually say to people, and I allow everyone to find out their reason why or how it happened. First of all, I say that there obviously we're missing something. Obviously, you've been exposed to something that we're missing. We don't know what that is. It could be, and I'm finding more and more and more and more and more and more hidden dental infections above the root of the tooth, into the jaw, into the actual jaw. We're finding cavitations, and these cavitations are actually on certain meridians that affect it. Like you wouldn't believe how many women have cavitations or have had had their wisdom tooth pulled, and the tooth next to it is the breast meridian, the tooth next to it. So if that wisdom tooth was pulled and there's an infection in the jaw and it is up and it's not affecting them, you can touch it, it's not painful, it's a deep infection, and it's on that and it's touching the breast meridian, that'll affect it. And the reason I know that is I've seen these people have that taken out, cleaned out, put ozone in it, and the breast cancer goes away. And I go, whoa, wait a minute. What happened there? We were missing something. So there are those things that happen. There's also, we're exposed to parasites. We're exposed to, now we all know, we're exposed to things. We've heard recently that, there's been some, I guess, freedom of information stuff coming out saying about some of the stuff they've been dropping in chemtrails, includes graphene oxide. There's been graphene oxide in food. So we've been exposed to a lot of things that we really didn't know we were exposed to. So there's a lot of stuff we don't know, and there's a lot of stuff we do know. And I said, only you know if you're eating, if you're going to sleep early. Only you know if you're moving around all day. Only you know if you're meditating. And I always explain that how important meditation is. I always explain, and even to the Christian, the Jew, and the Muslim, it's easy to explain what is meditating. Meditating is not praying to Buddha or Krishna. Meditating is listening. You took the time 5 times a day to pray to God if you're a Muslim, or if you're a Christian, or if you're a Jew. All I'm saying is after you pray, sit back and listen for the answer. Don't be rude and get up and walk away. After all, you just ask God for his attention and then you walk away. Come on. Anyway, that's what I call meditation. So, and I teach people that's it. And that's it. That's learning how to listen, learning how to shut up. And when we shut up, actually, we find out we're in a state of bliss, because that is our natural state. Sat Chit Ananda, bliss, knowledge, truth. That is our natural state. Look at all animals. They don't have to meditate or pray, right? You look at a dog. If a dog is not eating or mating, it's totally blissful. Or a cat. Buddha's got nothing on the cat. cats are in total not samadhi, nirvana, right? I mean, so that's where animals are at. Animals are connected. They don't need to pray. They don't need to meditate and all that sort of thing. We do. Why? Because we have minds, and our minds are full of culture. We're enculturated, and our minds are a place of illusion. There's only illusion in the mind. It's impossible for anything else to be in the mind. The mind is illusion. I won't go into that now, but it's just, believe me. Some other time we'll talk about it, but just believe me. And it's only when the mind is turned off do you feel happy, ever. Why do we ski? Why do we surf? Why do we listen to music? Why do we have sex? Why do we dance? Because in every one of those things, we get to stop thinking. Otherwise, we're stuck thinking. And that is probably the most horrible thing in the world. And guess what? Thinking's involuntary. No one decided to think. Thinking happens, just like your heart beats. Okay. So anyway, meditation's so I talk about that. So those are the things we can control. I mean, we can. Who knows what we can, but perhaps we can control those things. But there are lots of things we don't know. So you take it away so that someone doesn't feel like a victim. Say, look, there's a lot of things that we can do, and there's a lot of things that we have no. I can't. The smog I'm being exposed to, what's dropped in the air, I can't control. So things like that, and then and that kind of opens it up. And then we explore it, and we explore together. We try to find out what happened. But here, in the end, there's always one other thing I have to do. I have to tell this to everybody. Even if we figure it out, 99% of how you got to this condition, there's always 1%, and I don't know if it's 1% or 0.5% or of 0.1%. It doesn't matter how big it is, but it trumps everything else. I guess I can use that word now because he's not president. Anyway, it's more important than everything else, and that is karma. You can't ever take karma out of the equation, right? And or the will of God, destiny, providence. There are many names for it. You can't take that out of the equation. So that's the one thing I always tell people. I was living such a perfect life. And who knows, maybe you were thinking, here's one of the things to keep in mind. Everybody, please remember this. It's very important. 90% of our mind is subconscious. That means we really don't know what our internal dialogue is. We really don't know what we tell ourselves. We don't know. And the immune system is the shadow of the mind. When you're happy, your natural killer cells are powerful. You're pumping out gamma interferon. You're pumping out IL-2. Your macrophages are gobbling up. Your neutrophils are gobbling up. That's what's happening when you're happy. And when you're sad, angry, afraid, sad, envious, regretful, any of that, the opposite is the effect on your immune system. So that's a problem. First of all, thinking's involuntary. Number two, 90% of it is subconscious. And there's our immune system like a roller coaster all day long. Okay, so, and we can't change the content of our thoughts. We can't decide what to think. It takes a long time. If you want to change the contents of your internal dialogue, then you have to start reading books. And you have to it takes a while for your mind to get full with other words than you currently have tumbling around and experiences and stuff. It takes a while. But anyway, by knowing that, the only control we do have, and it's difficult, is to shut up, is to learn to turn off the mind. And that's what meditation is. That's the only control. Otherwise, the mind is like, as Buddha said, like a fish on the beach, flopping around, going nowhere. Can't control it. And the problem is our immune system is right behind there, chasing it. So Anyway, the point is to have a health, that's really, and there's a lot of studies that actually show that meditation improves natural killer cell function. Meditation improves T cell function. I mean, it shows that. You can do blood tests and you can see that. So this is not just conjecture or hypotheses. These are true. This is true stuff. Yeah. So anyway, it's all really, that's really important. But that's it, you know. And then the other thing I help people try to, the last thing I want to say is that let's accept the fact that we'll never understand. And let's just start seeking health. And what is health? Health is optimal functioning of the organism. And we have no idea what that is. Probably the optimal functioning of a human being is somebody who could fly. Somebody who could, they call it in India, they call it siddhis. You know, you get powers from doing all this kind of meditation. Perhaps we could get to New York, Nebraska without a flight. Maybe I could call you without a phone. We have no idea, but we spend all of our energy, all of our thoughts, all of our creativity on this junk instead of inward. We were given a divine machine. So divine, so perfect, so incredible. And we ignore it. We're looking that way instead of that way.
Mm. So it's
Okay.
to go inside. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry, I talked too much.
No, it's good. It's also interesting. Dr. Vignesh, or how do you tackle it? It can't be dissimilar. I know that, but it's you know, it's what you say, Dr. Lodi, is so correct. I mean, it is meditating, getting quiet, listening to the inside, doing less technology. The thing is, I often find myself, I think one of the things that I found I was lucky about when I went through my personal journey with health was that I have a very strong spiritual connection that didn't need help. I didn't need to be convinced about it. So I felt, and one of the things that I found came up that was really important and you know, sits with people is obviously all the fear and the victimization that you say, but that thing of like, I'm alone. I never felt like I was alone, but that was innate in me, that I've always had. How do you help people connect with spirit or, you know, yeah, their spiritual side, spiritual connection, when they are so angry and adverse to it?
The first thing that, you know, like what Dr. Lodi said, it is the ability to help your patient to shut their mind up. Now, that is a skill that I realized when you deal with patients with some unique diseases that were diagnosed with. And another problem that I have, being an Ayurvedic doctor, I always say I'm a doctor for the leftover patients. You know, they try all the other systems and then they come back, especially in Kerala, they come to Ayurveda as a last resort in some kind of a situation. So it's like they're coming with the last straw hope. Maybe there is some possibility, there is some hope. And they're also coming with a huge pain and trust, and maybe if it works, it works. So first thing, I have to challenge their belief. And how I challenge their belief is, they come with a diagnosis, and once they're diagnosed, they go through Google and they become a half doctor. And then they try to understand, this is a disease which we do not know what is the cause, but it is incurable. And that will be written in many multiple scientific peer-reviewed journals. So I ask them, if it is a disease of unknown cause, and they say it is incurable, how can you trust them? If something is unknown, doesn't mean there is no cause. Of course, there is a cause, but that's just that they couldn't find that one single cause. Maybe we find that cause, but that's not what we want. What we want is, we want you to live the rest of your life in your best way. We want you to enjoy the rest of your life. One day we all are going to die. There is no escape from that. Everything has to die. Every cell in our body is dying. And it's only when we accept and embrace death, we actually enjoy life better. So first thing is I make them get prepared for the worst case scenario of their life. Any moment, death can happen. So once you know death is going to happen, how are you going to live the rest of your life? You don't want to live your life with regret. You see, how can I appreciate every moment? And then I challenge them, just because they said they can't cure doesn't mean there is no other way. And I'm not saying I can cure it, or I'm not saying I have the right protocol. If you do this, this, and this, and I'm going to help you come out of this. But maybe we can understand and see what the body is trying to tell you. There is a wisdom behind why the body is telling you this. And pain is the way the body is communicating. You need to change something in your life. You need to change something in your mind. Just like Dr. Lodi was talking about the self-talk. The way we talk to ourselves, it has such a huge impact. And in Ayurveda, the word for immunity is called Vyadi Kshamatvam. And in Sanskrit, the word Kshama actually means your ability to forgive. How much can you forgive how much your body has gone out of control? How much can you forgive that and say, go out? And by the way, when Dr. Lodi was saying, by the way, I'm taking a lot of notes when he's talking. So he just talk about, we just do dancing, we just do skiing, we just do surfing, because we can't stop thinking unless we do something. So I was reading about, why do we call the unit of time as seconds? We have 60 seconds is 1 minute, milliseconds. Why is it called second? Second is a second unit. Why is it not something else? Why do we call the unit of time in second? Because we always miss the first. Because we are constantly thinking, we never get the first. We always, by the time we count it second. So we are so attached to control. And on one hand, our primal need is survival. And we don't have those primal issues anymore. So we are constantly worrying, how did this happen to me? Why did this happen to me? And then it's very interesting, because Lodi mentioned about karma. And karma is in Ayurveda, we say, sometimes patients will be diagnosed with a disease that you cannot use your logic to explain. And that you have to go back to your karma. And what can be that karma? That karma could be your past life. That karma could be your ancestors. That karma could be being born at one place. Now, karma cannot be explained with a laboratory test. You don't have a biomarker to explain karma. It's something that we have to, it's a very subjective analysis of our logical mind, and we can go beyond that. So when we look at that, we always ask, there is a book, I don't know the original, I forgot, but I'll come back to you with that. But this was the meaning of that. A doctor was trying to figure out how people who were diagnosed with terminal cancer, they were able to beat the odds and come out of it. They were diagnosed with terminal cancer, and they were given a ultimatum that you may have 6 months or 9 months, so be prepared for it. But in spite of giving that ultimatum, they came out of it. So he was trying to find out what made them break that ultimatum and come out of that. And he said, when he interviewed all these patients, I think it was Dr. Bernie Siegel who mentioned this, but the idea is, he mentioned all these patients who were diagnosed with a terminal disease, when they came out, they said, now I decide I am going to take complete responsibility of my life and health. I'm not going to blame anyone. If something happened to me, it's up to me, and I'm going to take the responsibility. And this is exactly what the law of karma says. You are responsible for your own stuff, or whatever way that you call it. And law of karma is all about, how can I take complete ownership and responsibility of what I'm going through? Maybe within my logical mind, within my first memory, if I remember something and if I'm facing the consequence, maybe there are things that are beyond my memory and beyond my logical understanding. And if I do not remember what I ate last week at this point of time, doesn't mean I didn't have my breakfast. Maybe it doesn't mean I didn't have my lunch. Maybe there is something beyond that, which is beyond my memory and my logical understanding. So learning to embrace that and making them understand, you have to take responsibility. There is a reason why this is happening to you. It's like one of my teachers used to make a analogy and a story. Sometimes when people are inherited with a lot of wealth, they are so happy and so blessed. Sometimes they could inherit debt. So at that time, we don't want that. But when it is a lot of wealth, we want that. So sometimes the inheritance could be wealth, sometimes inheritance could be debt. But there is a reason why you're inheriting wealth, there is a reason why you're inheriting debt. But it's not necessary to go to what is the reason, but it is more important how we are going. If I'm inherited with a lot of wealth, how am I going to use it in a positive way? Instead of being, instead of splurging it and wasting it, or if there is a debt, it is giving you a lot of constraints in life, and that constraints can always bring out something good. All the greatest innovation and imaginations came out of constraints, and that is where we have to take advantage of it. So every disease is an opportunity to go inward to find out what is the message that is coming to. And once we make that patient understand that, then there is a scope for that. I really appreciate when Dr. Lodi mentioned, never put them in a position that they have to lie. Maybe there is something they didn't understand, but they are not willing to face that reality. They don't want to face that reality. And they try to dodge that reality by saying, but once they understand, and then suddenly they open up. Maybe something happened and they were suppressing that emotion throughout. Maybe outside they were appearing very strong. Maybe there is a chemical factor that was like, it could be they got exposed to some particular chemical and that got used to it. But once the body and mind becomes open to this idea that there is a reason, just because I do not know the reason, maybe I could be a victim at one point of time, but that doesn't mean I don't have any powers anymore. And once they understand, still, I do have a space where I could take control of my life. Once they get into that state and space and give up the need to control everything else that is beyond their scope of control, then, we have a space to talk and to enter the stage of healing. And if you understand the word heal, it comes from the word holy. And it is what? Holy is what? Everything is whole, everything is connected, everything is interconnected. You cannot isolate one single thing and say, this is the only thing that is creating this. There's always a polyfactorial effect in everything. And that is what the word in Ayurveda for health or the optimal health is swastha. And the word swa means my purest self, the way the nature has designed me. And sta means connected. The more I am connected to the purest self, the way nature has designed me, that is my optimal state of health. And the more disconnected I am, that is when my disease starts. And we have designed a world where safety is our ultimate priority. And on the other hand, we have designed a world where distraction is the most important thing today. So we are jumping between security and distraction. And this is like, I am alive, but maybe I'm not connected to myself. And one thing, whenever I talk to my best good friends who are allopathic doctors, see, from day one, they are trained. How can I keep this person alive? How can I keep this person alive? And keeping a person alive and living with your highest, best, optimal self and vitality is a two different thing. Okay, keeping a person alive is fantastic if you are in forest and you got a snake bite or you are going through some, an accident, fantastic. But enhancing the quality of life is a complete different approach. So making them understand, just because you are diagnosed with something doesn't mean your quality of happiness, quality of fulfillment, the quality of relationships, things that really matter, that still can be achieved. And this understanding and making the patient understand, I feel this helps the most. Like he said, making them aware of what is karma, making them aware there could be something that we need to figure out, but let's come out of the victimhood and then take it forward. That way we are able to take the next steps in the right direction. Otherwise we go in circles again and again.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Absolutely. And, such an important component. And both of you do that in your clinics, is helping people understand, getting involved in your healing process. Whereas, I could feel it very strongly when, going through the regular sort of Western mode and going through the chemo story. There was, you diagnose and you go there and it's generally like doctor, people like, I always feel like I see these hands that are like handcuffed. Instead of kind of going, well, let's actually work with this together. help me and get involved. And that's not spoken enough about, which is why the integrative modality and Ayurveda are such a beautiful combination of looking at health in a way that empowers people. I mean, we want to sit here, and both of you do this so amazingly. You give people power, you give them an opportunity, and just like you said, you don't want people to feel disempowered. You don't want to take away their opportunity to actually, go step into their healing. And both of the attitudes and the techniques that you work with, I think, are the way forward. It's the only way that people can. But I've brought this to the platform because we've got to let people know you aren't a victim. You can. And what is that element? What is missing? I love that you said that, Dr. Lodi. Like you said, well, what is the missing gap? What brought you to that place of victimization? And also understanding you're not alone. There are so many sources out there, that can help. So, moving forward, I love that. I mean, this can be the mode of how we look at health, definitely for the new year. They're step by step and together. Part of this connection, connecting with your health is connecting with community. I think that's so important. But both of you do that with your free courses, with your free live streaming, Dr. Lodi, with your podcast, Dr. Vignesh. So moving ahead with the topic, Dr. Lodi, I know you have your clinic in Arizona, your integrated oncology clinic. And when people leave there as well, mostly they're there for a certain amount of time, but moving forward, do they stay connected to the clinic? Is there support beyond it once they leave there?
Yes, it's a formalized program. I think it's called aftercare or something unique like that, aftercare. But where we connect, we stay connected. We have someone that does. That's their job, is to stay connected to the people that leave, and they have regular visits with the doctors about what's going on, and we get blood tests and whatever. I'm developing channels on some kind of social media where they all join, and so there can be weekly events where with either our chef or our yoga instructor or our kinesiologist for movement, or the doctor, or someone is giving a lesson once a week, so everyone stays connected. Because if you're in an environment, you're in a healing center where you're learning to heal. Now, by the way, there's only one way to get health, and this is a secret. Keep it a secret. I don't want you to tell anybody. Okay, this is our secret. Health comes from healthy living. There's no other way. You can't buy it. It's not for sale. It's like respect, and it's like love.
For sure.
You have to earn it. So health comes from healthful living. So, and one of the things I wanted to bring up to everyone is this, and that is, let's not figure out why we got sick. Let's not spend too much time. Okay, we're sick. Let's get better. How do we get better? Let's live healthy. Let's get rid of the garbage and restore balance. And what I love, the real difference I see between allopathic medicine and indigenous medicines. And I say, unfortunately, and I hope I don't offend anyone, which I will, because I usually do, but I hope I'll try not to. But even most naturopathic doctors are green allopaths. They still have, I've got the answer for you. It's these 15 herbs. this is what's wrong with you. I'm going to fix you. It's still that mentality where the doctor is going to fix the person because there's something wrong. And the word, any healing discipline that has the word pathology in it, allopath, homeopath, naturopath, it's saying there's something wrong and we're going to fix it. And what we are saying, there's nothing wrong. It's all perfect, but it's out of balance. So Ayurvedic, traditional Chinese, traditional African, traditional South American, traditional everywhere, European. You go back to the traditional tribal stuff and it's restoring balance. We've gotten out of balance. And for us, it's very easy. You know, not only have we physically gotten out of balance, but we've gotten out of our mind, body, and spirit, which we think are separate, have gotten out of balance with each other too, as well. So and so we got to, all we have to do is restore balance, and health is the consequence. Yeah. Wow. And it's because it's not something you can figure out. You got to remember, I want you to think about something. Right now, you are making 37 million new cells every second. What?
Yeah.
Not only that, there's a 36 with 21 zeros after it is the number of chemical reactions going on inside your body every second. What? So who's running the show? How is all this happening? This is a divine dance beyond comprehension. Don't think you'll ever understand it. And don't even try. Just say, ah, thank you. Thank you. All right. And consciousness is like energy. It cannot be created nor destroyed. You know, so anyway, we'll never understand this incredible. You know, when the more I studied the body, and I studied the cell, and I study what's going on with the cancer cells, it blows my mind. There's no, we'll never figure it out. And we don't have to. Listen, do you think horses have conferences on what's the best hay to eat? Do you think dogs, we got to figure out what's the best food to eat, man? No, no animal does this stuff. It's all instinct. We're all enculturated, right? So this guy grew up eating monkey brain. This guy grew up eating bull testicles. This guy grew up eating whatever. It's all cultural. What would a baby do? Take a 12-month-old baby from any country and put it in a cage with a rabbit and an apple. What's it going to do? You think it's going to eat the rabbit? I don't think so. It's going to eat the apple, lick it, bite it, and play with the rabbit. We're the only ones that do that to our children. We give our, you know what? There's two things we have to give our children: love and health.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, how do you give your child health? Easy. Don't give him bad habits. Don't give them habits they have to change. So in other words, don't give them cooked food. Try not to give them cooked food till they're 5 years old, 6 years old. So when they get hungry, they go, can I have a carrot? Can I have an apple? Can I have a cucumber? Because guess what? Who made it?
God.
God, the earth, together. They made this, the sunshine, the water. Whoa. They didn't make tomato sauce. What? They didn't make tomato sauce.
So I hate to do this. I have to watch the time for us. That's why I wanted us to have a 2.5 hour thing so we could go on and have questions. We've got 4 minutes left. So, and I know they seem to be on time. I wanted Dr. Vignesh, Dr. Lodi, last minute each just to close up and to thank you. Dr. Vignesh, just to end off, any thoughts you want to share with the group before we leave?
Take care of your emotional health.
Yeah.
I think this is going to make a huge difference. And when I say emotional health, it's not about being excited, doing adventurous things. Emotional health is about, you could go through grief, you could go through sadness, you could go through frustration, but get the message out and see what it is trying to teach you. But don't stay in that low emotion, but there is a reason why this emotion is coming. Because everything else, we have figured out a way to survive. But this emotions, we are still scratching the surface, what it does to the body and what to deal with that. We know certain things, but emotional health is going to be the future of many people's health, because all the other things, to a great extent, we have learned to deal with it. But when it comes to emotional health, our ability to cope with it is really poor, and nobody is teaching this in school. No parenting is teaching how to deal with that. And when people keep telling you can be happy all the time, it's not true. You will go through a lot of uncertainties, you'll go through a lot of difficulties, but that doesn't mean that's the end of the life. It is all happening for a reason, and we all are prepared to go through that. And that is one key takeaway for the future.
Beautiful, beautiful. Dr. Lodi, last words you want to share with the group? We've got exactly 2 minutes.
Well, I mean, really, basically the same thing.
Most, yeah.
The same thing. I would call it a acceptance. Accept where we're at. Accept that where we're at. And it's just like an alcoholic. You can't become a non-alcoholic until you accept the fact that you're an alcoholic. Or a drug addict. You can't become a non-drug addict until you accept the fact that you're a drug addict. So wherever you're at, say, okay, here I am. And that surrender, that act of surrender, it's not giving up.
Beautiful, beautiful.
It's surrendering to the reality of it. That surrender is the first step of healing.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then from then on, you just from then on, just live a healthy life. And you work on all the things we talk about from mind, from all the things that we talk about. Yeah.
So I would like to propose, I've just loved this. I know everybody has loved this. Everybody is sitting here. I've got a big house tonight. Can we do this in the new year? Can we come back and add to the conversation, take it further, have more sort of more directed topics, specific topics we can go into, and question and answer people really wanted to. So from the bottom of my heart, Dr. Lodi, thank you so much for coming on again. I have full intention of coming to Thailand next year, and I really hope you're there this time. Dr. Vignesh, thank you so much. Always an honor and a pleasure. And I hope that we can see each other next year as well. So for me, Conversations in the Kitchen, thank you all of you to a festive, good, healthy festive season and a good new year. Please go into the links, lots of links from Dr. Vignesh, Dr. Lodi. There's going to be a wonderful sort of 15% off for Dr. Lodi if you go into his website, Dr. Vignesh. A lot of things on offer there, amazing podcast, and I will send all of you information on the WhatsApp. Please just copy my number if you don't have it. So I'm so sorry, I'm right. But so much love to all of you, and thank you for coming this morning and this afternoon to you, gentlemen. So thanks everybody. That was amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you
never
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vignesh.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Dr. Lodi.
That was amazing.
Yes.